Keeping the Distance.
By Clarisse David. His first mistake was thinking she wasn't capable of anything sinister. Lance didn't know this when he walked into their classroom after lunch and found Melissa calmly organizing her pens in a neat row on her desk, like the day's earlier event hadn't happened at all. She was the picture of a good student. Hair braided again into perfection. He almost sighed. The wooden seat felt warmer than usual when he sat down, like someone else's butt had kept it warm for the last 5 minutes. One row away, Cam sneaked glances at him. When their eyes met, he raised his eyebrow at her, and he could almost swear a bead of sweat began to form on her upper lip. Something was going on here, and he didn't like it one bit. His gaze flicked back to Melissa, who was still arranging her pens. He wanted to swipe one of her under her noses to shake her up. There were better things in life to look at. His face, for example. They still had 5 minutes before the torture known as their physics class started, so he pulled his chair closer to hers. If you're good in algebra, can you substitute my x without asking why? It was a cheesy and completely ripped off some site he found online, but it was the best he could do on short notice. For a heart-stopping minute, he thought she wasn't going to respond. She continued toying with the pen in her hand, but in the end, it was as if she couldn't help herself. The dam broke earlier when she lost control, and the words she kept inside for so long wouldn't stop pouring out.
Which ex?
She said in a voice so quiet, he barely heard her. What?
Which ex do you want me to substitute?
Her voice increased in volume, confidence stitching through every syllable.
Noel Calderon? Jenny Rodriguez? Oh, Laika Abelia. Oh, Bea Sandoval. I could go on, but I think you see my point.
Shock would have been a colossal understatement for how Lance felt. He had dated each of the girls she named for less than 5 months, breaking things off when he found it too serious or when he met someone more exciting. Rinse and repeat. He wasn't particularly proud of his rather extensive dating record, but at least he could say that he'd never dated 2 girls at the same time, technically. His breakup with Laika, the salutatorian, had been particularly bad. He slipped a note that said, "We're over." In the notes, he borrowed from her. Good thing they didn't have any classes together. But when he was also taken aback by the realization that he knew next to nothing about Melissa's dating history. Had she ever dated anyone from school? Did she date? Was she even allowed to? Not wanting her to realize where his thoughts were going, Lance carefully erased the shock from his features. Sounds like you want to be added to the list. He drawled, wondering how she was going to react. She was a bit of a wild card now, always toying in the line between fighting back and ignoring him.
Sorry, but being another nudge on bedpost isn't my lifelong ambition.
Melissa didn't even bother to turn around. She merely leaned back on her chair and crossed her arms over her chest, the movement bringing her neck closer to his face. The smell of lavender struck him with sudden force. His eyes were drawn once more to the constellation-shaped moles on her neck and wandered down to the vague outline of a bra clasp, showing through her white blouse. That outline alone tilted his world on its axis. If she could tell what he was thinking, she was going to wrap her fancy braid around his neck and simply pull. He cleared his throat and shook his head, even if she couldn't see him. I never said being a notch on my bedpost was your lifelong ambition. Just your deepest, darkest fantasy. A squeak of indignation escaped Melissa's lips, and the gravity in his words was restored. They were back on equal footing as her cheeks turned red. His eyes were back on her neck again. He wasn't doing himself any favors by sitting there and oogling her neck like a 13-year-old who's getting a first look at a real pair of boobs. Needing to get a grip of himself, he attempted to go talk to one of his teammates, who sat a few rows away. Attempted was the key word. He pushed himself off his chair, but it wouldn't budge. It had attached itself to his slacks, some sort of super glue, seeping through the fabric and latching onto his skin. "You did this," he said to the back of Melissa's head, unable to keep the reluctant admiration out of his voice. This time she glanced at him over his shoulder, her face the picture of innocence. She said,
Prove it.
unfreaking believable. But all of the smugness evaporated from her face when Mr. Rodriguez, their physics teacher, walked into the room. No matter how smart you thought you were, there was always one thing overlooked when you were new to the art of troublemaking. Melissa forgot to plan for the aftermath. It showed in the way she nervously doodled on her notebook, each stroke leaving a deep dent on the pages. He didn't have much of a choice since he was glued to the seat, but he was going to enjoy the coming fireworks show. In fact, he was going to milk every minute of it. Mr. Rodriguez soon filled the blackboard with equations and formulas that barely made sense to any of them. When he noticed that most of their eyes were glazing over, he stopped, his gaze bouncing around the room in search of his next target, his eyes locked on Lance. Mr. Odones, you seem to be uncharacteristically quiet today, huh? Why don't you go to the front of the room and regale with us your answer to the problem? Lance knew as much about the class discussion as he did about his father's daily life in Manila. Absolutely nothing. He gained a sense of satisfaction when Melissa's face turned as white as the notebook page she was writing on, knowing full well he couldn't stand up without dragging his chair to the front of the room. I'd love to, Mr. Rodriguez, but I can't. Lance tried to keep his voice even. He watched Melissa's grip tighten on her pen, her knuckles turning white with exertion. And why not? Can't you grace us, mere mortals, with your presence? Mr. Rodriguez raised his bushy eyebrows. Sir, Melissa's beauty is binding me to my seat. It wasn't that far from the truth. Under other circumstances and with any other teacher, the class would be laughing by that point, but their physics teacher was like some dark, pulsating thing that sucked out joy out of the atmosphere. No one even dared to smile. I'm not kidding, Mr. Rodriguez said, narrowing his eyes. Come here and answer this problem before I make you. He shook his head. I can't. Well then, I don't have a choice, Mr. Adonis. Mr. Rodriguez's face hardened, a line formed between his eyebrows. Get out of my classroom. He scratched the back of his head, looking at his teacher in exasperation. I can't do that either. The class went so still you could hear people breathing. It was common knowledge that no one in his more than 20 years of teaching had ever defied Mr. Rodriguez. The man had no mercy when it came to failing students and was quite trigger-happy with his red pen. And why not? A dangerous look glinted in Mr. Rodriguez's eyes. He started bouncing a stick of chalk in his left hand, almost salivating at the prospect of kicking him out of St. Agnes Catholic Academy. Lance had no other choice but to tell the truth. He sighed. Because, Mr. Rodriguez, I happened to be glued to my chair.
Keeping the distance.
By Clarisse David.